20 years before President Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, John F. Kennedy was given a funeral on a small island in the South Pacific during World War II.
The funeral that Jack Kennedy had after he was murdered in Dallas was not his first funeral.
Ted Robinson, a Sacramento Navy veteran, is probably the last man alive who was there at then Navy Lieutenant John Kennedy's first funeral.
The first funeral was we had in PT's, but we had funerals every day.
Ted Robinson and John Kennedy were both officers on patrol torpedo boats attacking Japanese naval ships in the dark of night.
Every night we were shooting and dying.
Robinson saw the massive explosion the night Kennedy's PT-109 was cut in half by a Japanese destroyer, burning fuel and debris on the water, but there were no signs of any survivors. 1 week later, Ted Robinson was the first American to learn that Kennedy and most of his crew were alive and stranded on a tiny island. 2 natives traveled 50 miles in a wood canoe and handed Ted Robinson, of all things, a coconut. On it was a message that Kennedy had carved with a knife.
It said something to the effect, 11 still alive, send help, JFK. I was absolutely delighted that he had survived because I was a friend of his. And I found him one of the nicer guys, and I didn't know he was ever going to be a president. He was just a really nice guy.
Robinson volunteered for the daring nighttime mission to rescue Kennedy and his men. He still remembers Kennedy's first words.
"Where have you been? I've been at this bus stop for a whole week now. I will never forget that." That was typical of the kind of guy he was.
1 month later, Ted Robinson was wounded in combat. He and Kennedy shared this tent for nearly 3 months as they both recovered.
And that picture of him has been all over the world.
Ted Robinson took this famous photo of Kennedy leaning on a cane. Kennedy snapped a picture of Robinson with the same camera.
And that has been in my safe deposit box.
Ted recently donated the photos, the camera, and the cane to the Smithsonian American History Museum in Washington, D.C.
Thank you so much.
After the war, Ted and Jack traded messages. But any chance for a reunion ended 50 years ago in Dallas.
How could it be that he could go through all that stuff, gunfire almost every night? And I said, this can't happen. Some nut, and I was shocked beyond imagination.
Ted has been to Dallas, but never to Dealey Plaza, where Kennedy was assassinated.
I couldn't even go and look at the building where that bastard was firing from. That shot Kennedy. I said, I don't want to see it. I can't stand it.
Ted Robinson grew up dirt poor in the Depression. John Kennedy, born to a wealthy family. But here, they were all brothers in harm's way. So when Kennedy needed a rescue, men were willing to risk their lives, including Ted, the pauper who helped save a president.